Welcome to the Proud Psychologist podcast, where we look at all things mental health. Brought to you by me, Carol, an LGBTQ coaching psychologist. Hello everyone. Today I'm being joined by Tino Orsini, a queer actor, playwright, comedian and podcaster. He was mentored by Sally Marr, performer, trailblazer and mother of legendary comedian Lenny Bruce, whose influence helped shape his fearless and unconventional voice. Tino is currently preparing to debut his solo show, Ghosts of West Hollywood, a deeply queer personal piece, set for a 6-night run at the Etc. Theatre before heading to the Edinburgh Fringe, where he takes to the stage as himself. Raw, self-aware and relentlessly creative, Tino brings a unique perspective to podcasting, where he blends industry insight, lived experience and a touch of theatrical mischief. I hope that you will enjoy our conversation. Hi Tino, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Carol. It's lovely to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, I'm really quite excited to, dig into a bit about your upcoming play, The Ghosts of West Hollywood. But I suppose first, I'm sort of delving into my ancestral stories and everything. And I'm actually really quite interested about what the transition was like for you coming to the UK from Italy.
Basically, my surname is Orsini, and my lineage goes back to popes, cardinals, princes. So even as a child, I felt watched, not by God, but by a legacy to fulfill, and I really felt the pressure to become somebody, to carry on the legacy of these amazing, notable figures in history. No pressure, So yes, I ventured into performing as a way of expressing myself. But coming to England was a real eye opener because I hadn't really seen it. I'd never been to a theatre before. I'd never seen a live stage show in Italy, as far as I remember. I was introduced to theatre here in London. Cinema, what I did in Italy was watch a lot of television. That was my source of entertainment. We had a black and white television back in the 70s, and I used to watch all sorts of shows from the States and stuff like that. But yeah, no, coming to England was a wonderful introduction to the arts. It's a lifelong love for the arts since, really, kept me going.
Yeah, sounds incredibly impactful, especially since you've then gone on into a career in acting, and playwriting as well. And I'm curious what that has been like, not just as an Italian man over in the UK, but also as an openly gay Italian man.
Yeah, it's been challenging, of course. I mean, starting out my career, I was in Hollywood, and I was a young, actor, just like thousands and thousands of dreamers that come into Los Angeles, to chase a dream. And I was one of those. And I just came to LA, and I discovered the West Hollywood nightlife. The parties and men who were living fully, breathing, unapologetically. And I saw versions of myself that I was too scared to admit then, And I didn't realize I could be an actor and openly gay. I thought, I grew up in the area when Rock Hudson, I was about 15 years old, and I saw the cover of a magazine on holiday. Rock Hudson had AIDS, and I hadn't really heard of him, to be honest. I knew a lot about the Hollywood actors and movie stars, but they were mostly women, like Judy Garland and Ingrid Bergman and so forth. But I hadn't really heard of him. And when I saw his beautiful photograph on this magazine, I thought, my gosh, And so I, well, we all know he was in the closet for all his career because the pressure he must have felt to not to come out from his agents and managers. Um, and I felt I'm not going to do that. I'm not. If I want to be an actor, I'm going to be honest about myself first, because it's not worth it. It's really not worth pretending to be somebody else just for a career, for financial stability and things like that. So yeah, it took me years to come to that decision to be open about myself, about my life. And this show is the most revealing, most intimate and personal performance I've ever given, because it's just me on stage, and I'm letting everything rip, and I'm sort of talking about everything that's happened to me in the last 30 years, which is, oh my gosh, 30 years. And also, I was a little frustrated in the representation that exists, not so much in the last 5 or 10 years, but before that, when I was coming up, I had to really, I couldn't, I felt I had to sort of be a bit of a macho guy, and in order to get roles, I couldn't be myself, and the image of the sort of the very sort of stereotypes of the masculine sort of acting on screen, the hero and the girl, and they walk off in the sunset and all that. I had no interest in doing that. As I've got older and progressed in my career, I want to do work that I can use my own voice in. I can really tell something that is of value to me as a person, as well as being an actor.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting ride so far, Carol. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I can really start to get a sense of that, and I'm wondering, you say that your new play is the most personal that you've done. What has it been like actually, sort of writing that and developing it, and then, preparing to bring it to the stage?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question, because I needed to make it. I mean, I was trying to show my truth, something personal to me. I wanted to make something where a queer character wasn't reduced to trauma or stereotypes, and yes, I'm queer, but I'm also ambitious, and I'm messy, and can be funny or romantic, or just a human being. At the end of the day, I'm just like everybody else. And I wanted to show that side as well in the show.
Yeah.
It's I tried to avoid cliches. That's what I'm trying to say. Growing up in a very macho environment, like southern Italy in the 70s, where a man was a man. I wanted to show queer masculinity in a different light, especially centering on older queer. I'm in my mid-50s now, so yeah, just wanted to show a fully dimensional character who happens to be me, Tino, on stage, telling you about what's going on in Hollywood, and how I got out, how I went into addiction, eventually finding recovery, and having the courage to come out to my family, to my friends, and myself. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like such a powerful experience for you in bringing it to audiences, but also a powerful story for audiences to witness. And I'm so loving the desire to show queer characters beyond the tropes, just as people that have, the same sort of experiences as straight people, I think there's such an important need for that kind of complexity. I think we do
Mm.
need to sort of step away from the tropes for a bit.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's I mean, it's it it's I wanted queer people to recognize themselves in the
Mm,
character, not just admire them from a distance. It's
mm,
just really um, sort of coming on the journey with me and finding sort of the similarities as well as the differences, and
mm,
how we celebrate um, the duality of queer representation,
mm,
the complexity, um, the humanity.
mm,
I think that's what I was sort of trying to get across. I wanted I want to play queer characters. I've done a few short films and things like that where I've played openly gay characters, and I've really loved that process. I felt so
mm,
free on set, and some of the best experiences I've had as an actor have been playing a queer character, and um, you know it's just like everyone else.
mm,
We're just as complicated, as selfish,
mm,
as loving
mm,
as anyone else, and we deserve to be celebrated and represented on
mm.
screen, on stage, in books, in music, in
Yeah.
every aspect of modern life. And we're getting there. I think. I really honestly think we're getting there, slowly but surely. It's I see the new generation of queer people coming up, and gosh, I feel like a proud uncle or a proud dad.
Mm,
I feel so proud, and they're doing what they love, and they're creating, and they're making art, and
mm,
they're falling in love. They're getting their first flat, their first car, and it's
mm.
just so wonderful to see that. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
Yes, absolutely. I was talking with someone recently and they said, younger generations of queer people don't, like, at least some of them aren't actually having to come out. They're
Hmm.
just um they can just be.
Yeah,
And I'm that's so amazing. And a part of me is like, oh, I wish I'd had that. you
yeah,
know?
me too.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you can relate, coming out isn't just a one-off, you know,
No.
constantly having to make the decision to, oh, do I let this person know that I'm not what they think I am?
Yeah.
Um,
It's I find I'm constantly coming out,
mm,
with new friends, new people that I meet.
mm,
But sometimes I do feel there's a sort of a distance there, and I don't feel comfortable, to sort of declare it. But
mm,
it's so nice when you just, like you say, the younger generation, the new queer community is just saying, this is who we are.
mm,
And it's like such a broad
mm,
spectrum of identities, and orientation, and so it's just so refreshing, whereas
mm,
coming out in my 20s to my sister, then my mom and my dad, I felt like I didn't. Nobody forced me to come out. I just, I'd had a wonderful relationship with a man, and and I felt so free and finally liberated
Mm,
from the cage of the closet, you know.
mm,
And so I wanted the world to know that I would tell everybody, you know.
mm,
My ex, actually, he says, "Oh, you've come out like 100,000 times, you know." You know, but I wish I could come out all the time. You know, the big sort of reveal. You know, I'm
mm,
gay. You know, and it's
mm,
like wow, and expecting some kind of response from the person you're telling it to. You know,
mm,
um, but it's so nice when you do find a person like you know, and you know they come from a good place and they've got an open mind and a good heart.
mm,
It's so nice just to say, you know, it's just reveal something of yourself, which is very personal and
mm,
it just immediately deepens the relationship, immediately
mm,
grounds that conversation, you know, into a
mm,
real human experience rather than, you know, a superficial one.
mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And how were the reactions when you came out? Because, you've got that very religious
Mm.
ancestry there. Um, and it's really easy for me to sit here and say, well, because of the strong religion, it must have been really awful for you. But I'm wondering, was it what was it like? Was it challenging, or were they really accepting straight away?
Um, yeah, I mean, my sister is only 2 years older than me, so and she has a lot of gay friends, and so it was quite easy for her to accept and support me in, you know, still. But my mother, you know, yeah, I mean, both my mother and father, you know, come from a very sort of traditional background in Naples, and but we've lived in London and America, and so we're quite a expansive family. You know, lots of extended family living all over the world, and my parents travel the whole world. But anyway, when I said to my mom, you know, I'm gay, and she said, oh, you know, she said maybe you're bisexual, because just to her the difference would make some kind of compensation or something. I don't know, but I told Dad after her, and he sort of went, "Oh, okay." I said I like men, you know, and he said, "Oh," and I remember the look on his face. He was so like, but he was wonderful. Both are. My mother, it's taking time, but I think we're getting there. You know,
Mm,
I'm caring of her at the moment. Both my sister and I. My father passed away about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and so we're having to sort of navigate her journey with Parkinson's. So,
mm,
but it's funny. My friends come, to the flat and we rehearse, or we just have a dinner or something, and
mm,
she sort of takes them into her, you know, um, she welcomes them as if they were her own sort of family, you know,
mm.
and it's lovely to see that. As a lovely saying, when family treat you like friends and friends start treating you like family, that's a nice sweet spot to reach.
Oh, yeah,
I'm getting
absolutely.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's really touching to whenever I hear of that sort of queer acceptance in families, it's so touching. I think um, I at least find that there's a lot of stories that I'm aware of where that's not the case. And it might be coloured by the fact that I haven't had that acceptance from my family. So it might be that I'm just paying more attention to the stories that sort of mirror my own. But I always find it refreshing to hear when someone has had that experience, you know.
Yeah, they were worried about me, obviously, and they thought my relationship was, he sort of converted me to homosexuality, and changed my. I mean, I had dated women, and I'd never felt so comfortable and as with a man. So um, yes, there's some terrible. I mean, yes, we had our ups and downs, obviously. I mean, when addiction, got out of hand. I mean, both my partner and my family were extremely worried, and I was so lost in alcohol and drugs that I couldn't be present in love, whether it was platonic or a relationship with my partner. They always came with me, the drugs, and it took me years to realize that, and then getting into recovery and starting the sober journey. I think I've learned a hell of a lot about my limitations and self-acceptance. But we did have some ups and downs. It wasn't all plain sailing. But I think a lot of it was to do with my addictions, rather than a kind of a homophobic point of view in any way. My parents, like I said, extremely open-minded, friends all over the world, and many gay friends in the family. So I just happened to be one of them, and so
Yeah. How did you how did you realize that the addiction was a problem? Because there's the pure nature of addictions means that there's a long period where we think, oh, it's okay, I've got it under control, it's not an issue. And I'm wondering what was it like for you to realize actually this is a bit of a problem?
Well, I mean, externally, all the clues were there, because I was damaging property in my bedroom, books, tearing books up, I remember, and my parents had to call the police to literally just kick me out and send me to a psychiatric ward, because addiction is often considered it's still considered a mental illness in a way, like psychosis, and I was put on medication, and then I sort of left the medical institutions and run away from home in a way, and sort of became homeless for a while. Not really using and drinking as much, but just internally I felt so lost and broken. Ashamed of my sexuality, and weighed down by the Catholic guilt. Just and I remember I got the call from my cousin Chiro Jr. and he called me and he says, there's a lady who wants to take you to a meeting, and it was an old neighbor's daughter. She was a drug and alcohol counselor, I believe she still is, and Miriam, and she literally saved my life. She took me to my very first 12-step meeting in a old hospital room, and there was smoke and cup of tea, a biscuit, and people beaming with something I hadn't seen in myself for years, which was hope. And so I got on the journey, and it's been very ups and downs throughout. But I felt home. I felt like home, and I've sort of I've been sort of the drugs and the alcohol are just a crutch. It's it's the feelings. I always, as a child, I always felt, as an outsider, I always felt like nobody understood me, and teachers at school didn't really get me. My family didn't get me. My friends didn't get it. I always felt like misunderstood and like I said earlier, I didn't have any role models as such.
Mm.
And doing the move from Italy to England, I think that was a blessing in disguise, because God knows what I would have ended up in
Mm.
Italy, probably marrying a woman and having children, because there's so much of a high percentage of gay men in Italy, especially southern Italy, who get married to
Mm.
conform to church or families
Mm.
pressure and things.
Mm.
So I'm glad we came here, and I was able to explore my sexuality and my and find a fulfilling um, relationship with a man who
Mm.
is my friend to this day. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah, which is very special.
Mm. Yeah, it's. I mean, you're so right. The like addictive behaviors are quite often treated as the problem, but actually they're a sign of the real problem
Yeah,
inside.
they're the symptom. They're the symptom.
Yeah,
It is an illness, but the drugs are just a symptom, and that's what I've
yeah,
learned in recovery. It's the feelings underneath the
yeah.
trauma that I was trying to deal with drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
And I just thought, well, everybody's doing it, and they
Mm.
seem to be okay, on the surface. So
Yeah.
I've honestly thought, once it's sort of saved my life in a way, alcohol and drugs, because I really like discovered a part of myself, and
Mm.
I don't want to condone, say, it's not, if you, I thought I could drink for the rest of my life. I would if
Mm.
I could, but I know that, one drink for me now is one too many, and 100 is never enough. I want more.
Mm.
It's an illness of more.
Mm.
Um, yeah, there's a line in my trailer that says addiction is like a friend who whispers it's your best friend until you're left standing in the dark with nothing left to trade.
Oof.
Um, yeah, it's pretty intense, pretty intense.
Mm.
But no, I've been sober now. I had a relapse after many years after my father passed away, and
Mm.
I'll be 8 years in August. So 8 years back, sober and clean, and I enjoy my meetings. I enjoy the
Mm.
fellowship.
Mm.
Um, I enjoy talking about it now. I was always like, oh my God, I can't talk about it to anybody because it's you're not supposed to.
Mm.
But I'm not sort of saying any names or I'm just sharing my story, and
Mm.
that's and maybe it'll help somebody outside of the fellowships. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows where your story can reach through art, through
Mm.
conversation, through relationships.
Mm.
Everybody's battling a battle, so let's be
Mm.
kind to each other and help each other out. We're only here once, so
Yeah,
it's you know
absolutely. You know, there's I'm feeling a lot of feelings actually listening to you talking about it. And I think I did have a problem with alcohol at one point, and some well-meaning people would express concerns, but it was easy to sort of brush it off and shrug it off, and because I was around other people who were doing similar things, and other people who were a part of it. Um,
mhm,
and so while I've never considered myself an alcoholic, I still do enjoy a couple of drinks every now and then, but I know when not to drink. And so
mm,
I choose when to drink, and I choose when not to drink. And I
mm,
think, I'm finding the more I talk to people about addiction, the more I'm seeing the commonalities and seeing the shared experiences. And yeah, it is important to talk about, because you're right. There is a taboo, a stigma around
Mm,
talking about it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. I remember going to a GP before I got into recovery, and we were talking about my drinking, and I said, "Oh, it's just weird." And she goes, "No, it's not weird." She said, "But doctors aren't really equipped to sort of deal with psychological issues.
mm,
Let's put it that way.
mm,
They're very good at the physical aspects of medicine and so forth, which
mm,
they can be amazing and life saving, but." When I mention, oh, my psychology, my mentalities, my mental health is not the way I feel comfortable. I don't feel very, and so the GP just sort of like, oh, I well, they're just sort of, I don't know what they do, but they direct you to a psychiatrist or something. I've had chats with psychiatrists, but what
mhm,
helped me a lot was a therapist.
mm,
An LGBTQIA plus based therapy, which was wonderful. I did that for, I think, 6 years,
mm,
and then did a year again last year with another therapist, a female therapist, and this time. But the first therapist was wonderful. We my gosh, an hour, 50 minutes every week
mm,
for 6 years. I mean, that builds confidence, and
mm.
and
Yes.
it builds not only confidence, but it sort of gives you your clarity and peace of mind.
Mm,
Because you delve into the childhood and um, being a gay kid in an adult world. It's
mm,
it's it's really so important to find somebody you can talk to. I really think that
mm,
really is an amazing tool.
mm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, the more we have plays like yours, and conversations like this, the more people will, actually think, yeah, I'll give that therapy thing a try, or, oh, hang on, maybe I do need to get the drinking under control, or, oh yeah, maybe the drugs are taking a bit too much space. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm,
Yeah, you never know who you'll inspire on a podcast or
mm,
working together or things like that. You can say something in one sentence that could completely shift somebody's perspective on a personal problem and help
mm,
them you know
mm.
find a solution, to move towards a solution. I think it's so
Yeah,
important. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Gosh, this is great. This is wonderful, Carol. I'm just feeling so many goosebumpy moments.
Mm, yeah. And I'm I'm wishing that we could, because I think we could talk for hours, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I need to be mindful of time. Um,
Yes.
because I don't know about you, but I could definitely chat with you about all sorts of things for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. Me
yeah.
too.
Um, so I guess with that in mind, what has it been like? What has the process of the Ghosts of West Hollywood been like for you? Because I know that you're wearing various different hats with it.
Yeah, I'm self-producing. I created it and performing it, and I have a wonderful director called Claudia McCaw, who's coming around after this. Actually, we're going to do some rehearsing. Gosh, it's 3 weeks to go to the show, and I'm just like, I'm so excited and nervous, and I shouldn't be nervous. I shouldn't be nervous, but there's something. really intimate and almost confessional about the show. You know, and it's almost like there's nowhere to hide. The audience is trapped with me emotionally throughout the hour, and I feel a sense of responsibility and duty to really give it my best shot. You know, I've never done anything like it. I feel this is the right time of my life where I can actually be honest and vulnerable and expose myself in such a way, you know, and it feels liberating. It really does. And I just I hope people will get something out of it, you know. You know, I really hope they go away thinking about their own lives in some way. I think that's the message I'm trying to convey. Gay, straight, bisexual, trans, or whatever. I think, you know, we're all human beings and we all deserve respect and to be celebrated as well. You know, I think, yeah, it's opening that door, isn't it? It's opening that the door is a little ajar. It's just having the courage to open that door a little bit further open and saying, "This is who I am," and you know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but you know, I'm just this. I don't have to be a version of myself. This is just me, you know, and it's it feels wonderful.
Yeah, I'm all excited hearing about it, and you know, I'm gonna see if there's a ticket available because I really want to come and watch. You know, it sounds like a really powerful experience that you're creating there.
I hope it resonates, you know, with people. I really do.
Yeah, I love the theatre, and it's a wonderful way to I think emphasize the humanity of the characters. You know, I think TV and films sometimes don't grasp it as quite as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something in sharing the same physical space as the actors.
Yeah, it's that intimacy, you know, especially in a small, intimate space like the Etc. where I'm doing the show in London and in Edinburgh, also intimate space. I think that gives me the permission to really just be very still, to have that stillness that, you know, I don't have to perform, but just sort of just share it as authentically as I can without, you know, making it theatrical in some way, you know, finding the humor and the true essence of the piece rather than demonstrate it and say, oh, you know, look at me, I'm telling you my life story, and people go, oh gosh, you know, rather than that. I mean, the show is really about, you know, about the, you know, I call it the ghosts of West Hollywood because the show is really about the ghosts we carry of who we used to be. You know, I remember I look back on my 15-year-old self, you know, scared of the world and, you know, not finding a name for the feelings that I was feeling, not having any anchor in my life, and finding that in the queer community in West Hollywood, and it's almost like I'm honoring that time, and I'm looking back, and seeing how far I've come since, you know, and how the journey, the trajectory of my own career and my own life can hopefully reflect in somebody in the audience and say, I see myself in that. And that's the ultimate sort of goal for a performer, is to reflect the audience. The audience can see themselves in a performer. That's the ultimate sort of goal, I think. But yeah, West Hollywood, you know, I went to West Hollywood to become myself, where I thought a version of myself would, but I didn't realize I was also trying to escape myself. And I had nowhere to go, and I was sort of at this sort of crossroads, and I realized either I'm honest about myself and live my life authentically, or I'm going to suffer and I'm going to feel that I'll be, you know, I'll be a very bitter and sort of angry man, and I don't want to do that. I want to be open. I want to be happy. I
Mm.
want to share joy. That's my goal,
Mm.
And hopefully I'm doing that with the show and my work,
Mm.
um, and
Yeah.
hopefully looking towards the future, where
Mm.
we can really go for it. We have so much resources, and
Mm.
um, there's a community of people that really care about you in
Mm.
every way, who you really are. No pretense, no
Mm.
masks, and
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Mm.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gift, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I think there is a real gift in bringing these types of stories to the theatre because, you know, someone in that audience, it might be a really insightful moment for them, really sort of, you know, if you can touch at least one person,
Yeah,
then fucking hell, it's
yeah. I always say that if you can, even Lady Gaga said that a lot, didn't she? On at the Grammys, I think
mm,
she said she kept saying that during that period when sort of 3 years ago or something like that. If you can affect one, if it's 100 person in the room and you can affect one person, you'll have done your job. And I always kept that to
mm,
heart. And I think, yeah, that makes so much sense.
mm,
If you can change somebody's perspective and view of life,
mm,
that's just so amazing.
mm,
Yeah, I totally agree.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And, especially with the political climate at the moment being quite so polarized, I
mm,
think it's even more important that we do celebrate and share our stories within the community, um, because, we are we are a community, and, sharing one person's story makes it, gives permission for another person's to be shared, and, we sort of build each other up and make
yeah,
space for each other.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. So, would you like to let listeners know when and where you're performing this?
Yes, it's the Etc. Theatre in Camden, Camden High Street. It's a lovely, intimate space, 42 seats, and I'll be up there from the 2nd to the 7th of June, 7 p.m. Sunday, 6 p.m. And then I'm up in Edinburgh from the 17th to the 22nd of August. And it'll be my third Edinburgh Fringe, so I'm really excited to go back to Edinburgh, visit my friends, and do a week there. I'm so excited. But yeah, London it's coming up. It's in a few
Yeah.
weeks, so people can get tickets online through Etc. Theatre. So I'm really excited for people to come and see it and experience the show with me.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to be getting a ticket because, oh, yes, really excited.
I
And
look
I
forward
hope
to
other
seeing you.
people do too.
Great. Yeah, tickets are selling very well, so it's
Good.
it's looking good. Yeah, yeah,
Good. Yeah. Yeah. It's really important. Yeah, I will die on this hill that, queer theatre is so important.
it's crucial. It's
Mm,
crucial. It has to be done.
mm,
It's our duty to share our stories
mm,
and and just be a human being, and just have the freedom to express yourself is definitely something that we all deserve in some way or other. So I think it's so important. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And yeah,
Thank you, Carol. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I honestly could chat with you for forever. Honestly, it's great. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
You're welcome. And maybe we need to arrange another conversation, because it feels like
Definitely.
there's a lot more that we could still talk about.
For sure. I'd love to be back whenever you want me back. I will.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you.